Good morning, students. Today we want to look at break-even analysis, which is also called cost volume profit analysis. Then we want to move on to target profit. Go to your PowerPoint slides, break-even point and target profit. Let's pull those up. Okay. And want to tell you first of all what that means. So in the first slide we have a depiction. That's going to mean when your sales or your revenues equal your total cost. Total cost will be variable plus fixed cost. So let's take a look at that. Okay, in the next slide it shows you the same slide I'm showing, and I want to work through this problem with you. It's on the PowerPoint slides, but total cost would be your variable cost plus your fixed cost. That's what this 100,000 is, so that's fixed cost. So total variable cost plus fixed cost is going to equal to your total sales. Okay, it's the point where net income is going to be 0. If you look at your sales income statement, sales minus variable cost gives you contribution margin minus fixed cost, and in this case net income would be equal to 0. Okay. Now let's take a look again at what variable cost is. That's going to be the number of units sold times the variable cost per unit. Fixed cost is usually one number that's set over a period of time called the relevant range. Sales, in this case, is going to be $50. That's what we're going to sell each item for, times the number sold. So let's take a look at the information we have here, and let's calculate what break-even would be. Now, variable cost here would be $30. Okay, so if you're looking at $30 times the number sold, in this case, it doesn't tell you because that's what we're looking for, which is our break-even point. How many are we going to sell to get a 0 net income? Plus $100,000 is equal to $50 times X. So we're solving for X, which is the number of units. Now, math equation, what you want to do is you want to get your variables on the same side. So subtract 30X from each side. That's going to give you 20X. Okay. You have $100,000 over here, which is your variable cost. To solve for X, you have to take your fixed cost, I'm very sorry, not variable. You have to divide each side by your 20. What happens is it goes out here, so you're solving for X, and over here, what you're going to have is 20 divided into 100,000, which in this case is going to give you 5,000 units. So what that means is you must sell 5,000 to have 0 net income. Okay, anything over 5,000 means you're going to make a profit. And you can go back to your PowerPoints and take a look. Here it is worked out for you. I want to introduce you to this graph though. Okay, there is a graph here that shows a depiction of this in graph form, and I want you to take a look. Your sales line starts at 0, goes all the way up. Notice total sales. Your cost is going to start at fixed cost, which is 100,000, and goes up, and it goes right under the sales. The point of break even is the 5,000 units. Okay, now if you want to determine how much dollar amount that is, what you would have to do is multiply the 5,000 times the $50 price. That means that 250,000 is the number of sales dollars you have to make to break even. Notice also the operating profit area is above the intersection, and then the operating loss, if you make anything under 5,000 units sold, you have a loss. Okay, so you need to know that for test purposes. Okay, now let's move on to another problem. Okay, in this case, let's go to the next one. Now, if we want to reduce fixed cost to 80,000, let's do the break-even point again and see what happens. So instead of 100,000, you have a $80,000 fixed cost. So coming back down to my problem here, let me put my phone up here so I can get this. Okay, now remember, your formula is total cost equals total sales. So you're looking at variable cost per unit times the number of units sold plus fixed cost is equal to the selling price, sales, times the number of units. Okay. Now I think in the other one, what did we call it? Sales. Okay, so let's plug in the numbers here. Variable cost is 30x. You're looking for X. Fixed cost now is not 100,000 but 80,000. Sales is going to be 50. And let's solve our equation. We need to get the 30 to the other side, so minus 30x. That goes out over here, the whole thing. We now have 80,000 is equal to 20x. And to solve for x, we have to divide both sides by 20. So now we have 4,000 units. So 4,000 units would be our break even. And to find out how much that is from a dollar standpoint, if you multiply it times 50, that means you have to sell 200,000, I believe, dollars to break even. Okay. All right. Now, they graphed it in the graph, so if you go back to the PowerPoints, it is graphed here, okay, in your graph. And in the next slide, I said to know all of this, you're not going to label it, but you do need to know it. So I may just delete this slide. I did give a quiz on it when we had in class, but we're not going to do that now. But you do need to know that graph for test purposes, okay? Know the intersection is break even. Know that points above in the shaded area would be your profit area. Points below in this orange area would be your loss. Notice that your sales goes through the 0 point and your cost starts at your fixed cost area down here. Okay, and the break-evens intersection. Okay, now I want to talk about target profit. So I want to change to a different format. Same material that's in the PowerPoints, but it's a different format. So let's go over here. Okay. And like I say, it's the same information that's in your PowerPoints. It's just a different format. I typed it up in a different way. So let's take a look at this. And notice now we want to see if we want to make $100,000. Okay, how many units do we have to sell to make $100,000? So that's where we're going now. How many units do we have to sell? Selling price is $75. Variable cost is $45. Contribution margin is $30. Now, if you remember, what we did was in the original problem, we took total cost is equal to total sales. Okay, in the original problem. We had variable cost times X plus fixed cost is equal to the selling price times X, okay? But this time, what we're going to do is, and if you remember when we did all this, we divided this side by variable cost X, this side by we subtracted, subtract. We subtracted variable cost X over here. So what you ended up having here was the contribution margin. Selling price minus the variable cost was your contribution margin. Okay, so again, going back here, let me take you to where we did that, okay, in this problem that we just did. Okay, this is where we subtracted 30x, the variable cost from both sides. Now, 50 minus 30 was your contribution margin, if you notice down here. Okay, so we took the contribution margin, which you didn't know that's what that was, and we had fixed cost is equal to your contribution margin times X. Okay, and then in order to solve this problem, we divided fixed cost by your contribution margin to solve for X. Okay. Now, so what they did, this was to get your break even. What they have done down here is they've given you a formula. Fixed cost plus your target profit divided by your contribution margin. Okay. So this is the easy way to solve for target profit. Let's take our fixed cost, which is $200,000. We want a target profit of $100,000, and we want to divide that by our unit contribution margin, which is going to be 30 here. And that's going to give us X, which is the number of units to sell to get 100,000 target profit. Okay, so 300,000 divided by 30 is going to give you what, 10,000 units, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so that's the number of units that you're going to have to sell in order to make a target profit of $100,000. Okay. Now, that's the answer to number one. They wanted it in units. How would you know what it was dollar amount? So let me ask you that. If you have to sell 10,000 units and you want to know how much dollar sales that has to be, you would just multiply that times your sales price. And that means that you have to have $750,000 in sales to get a target profit of 100,000. And that's going to be your answer here, okay? Or you can use a different formula, okay? Now, I did it one way by taking the units and multiplying by sales. Here's another way. I'll give you this formula. Target profit plus fixed cost divided by the contribution margin percentage. Well, let's go back, and if you remember, the way we got contribution margin percentage was to take the contribution margin and divide it by sales. Let's go up here again. Okay, remember, right here, if you divide every number by sales, what you're getting is what we call a common size. You're getting a common size income statement or financial statement. Okay, So 30 divided by 75, this is going to be 100 in your sales figure. 30 divided by 75 is going to be 40.40 or 40%. And if you run the middle number, which is variable cost, into your calculator, that has to be 60% because 100 minus 40 is 60. This is 100%, not dollars, okay? So in this formula down here, let's try this one. Fixed cost is going to be $200,000 plus target profit of $100,000 divided by that 0.40, and that should give you your $750,000. Run that through your calculator and make sure. Okay, so this is the dollar amount in sales to get a target profit of $100,000. And let's verify it. Let's verify our work down here. Okay, if we have sales and we're selling a product for $75 each, and we have to sell 10,000 up here to get a target profit, that means our sales is going to be $750,000. Variable cost, okay, variable cost up here at the top was $45 a unit, so bring that down. Again, we have to sell 10,000 units. This is units. That means that variable cost will be $450,000. So your contribution margin is going to be $300,000. Now let's verify that, because up here at the top we said contribution margin was $30 each. So 30 times the 10,000 is equal to 300,000. And our fixed cost from up at the top is 200,000. So that gives you net income or profit of 100,000. So what did we want? We wanted 100,000 profit. Okay, so that's your verification. All right, so let's kind of regroup here. If you take in number one your fixed cost plus your target profit, and you divide by your contribution margin for one, what you're going to get is units. Okay, you're going to get sales in units. In number two, if you take fixed cost plus target profit and you divide by contribution margin percentage, okay, that is going to give you sales in dollars. So see what you're looking for here. Contribution margin percentage, remember, is going to be your contribution margin divided by your sales. Okay. All right, homework then. Let's find it. All of this is on your PowerPoint, so you can go through and find it. Here's your homework. Last slide of your PowerPoints. Posted under the assignment tab. It's doing each one of these items that we just did on this handout. And please show me all your work. Have a good day. Bye.